WWF St. Valentine's Day Massacre in Your House took place on February 14th, 1999 in Memphis, Tennessee. The show attracted around 19,000 fans and 450,000 pay-per-view buys, a very good number indeed for an in-your-house event. Steve Austin versus Vince McMahon's our main event tonight. That match is going to take place inside a steel cage. And we also have another Rock vs Mankind WWF title match, only this time it's going to be a last man standing match. On Sunday Night Heat, The Rock attacked Mankind backstage. The number one contender wanted to get an early advantage, it seems. And also on Sunday Night Heat, Vince McMahon called out Steve Austin, but instead he got WWF Commissioner Shawn Michaels. Vince thought Austin was afraid to confront him and Austin was hiding behind Michaels, but Stone Cold did come out moments before the show went off the air. McMahon spat on Austin and Austin said he was going to clean it off with the help of Vince's blood later tonight. I think that'll make things worse, to be honest, but nonetheless, this main event's going to be very interesting tonight. I'm really looking forward to it. Our opening match is Goldust vs Bluedust. This rivalry began when Goldust stole head from Al Snow and Bluedust managed to get it back. On Raw this past week, Goldust also received a blue bath from the Meanie, so Goldust is out for revenge tonight. The Meanie gets annihilated at the opening bell. A spinebuster followed by a choke in the corner puts Goldust in control. Meanie takes a clothesline followed by a slap in the face, so Bluedust heads to the outside and clearly he hasn't learned his lesson yet. Bluedust plays up to the gimmick and Goldust ends up pulling Meanie back into the ring by his hair. Meanie's then able to hit a low drop kick back inside the ropes and he follows this up by grinding on Goldust's knee. Goldust isn't feeling it, the Meanie isn't his type, so he ends up spanking his opponent while Meanie runs around the ring flailing his arms about. Why this is the opening match for this pay-per-view, I have no idea. Meanie avoids shattered dreams, he goes up for a moonsault but he misses his target. Goldust wins the match with a curtain call and after the bell he hits shattered dreams anyway because why not? Nothing against this match in general, it's just a bit of fun, but I would have moved it away from the opening spot. It's a weird choice for kicking off a pay-per-view. Next up, it's Al Snow versus Bob Holly for the Hardcore Championship. Road Dogg sustained an injury and he was forced to vacate the championship. Seeing as Raw aired the night before St. Valentine's Day Massacre, the commentators say the injury happened backstage when Road Dogg got attacked by someone, but of course no footage of the attack exists. The tone of the match gets set immediately when Holly takes a chair shot right to the head. The two then make their way into the audience where Holly body slams his opponent on a step before using a fire extinguisher on Snow. Holly then smashes a jug over Al's head and you'd think this would be enough to end the match, but Snow comes back by using the extinguisher. The two then go to the backstage area where they use everything at their disposal to inflict as much pain as possible. Trash cans, floor tiles, even a plastic beer cooler. They then travel outdoors where Snow manages to break a few brooms over his opponent's back. The two then leave the building completely to fight on the mean streets of Memphis. Snow gets thrown into a road sign and he gets put through a fence. Holly gets choked out with some barbed wire and he gets dumped into a wheelbarrow. The guys then end up at a bank along the Mississippi River where they break some conveniently placed tree branches over each other, and then the match goes right into the river. After Snow and Holly have a little splash in the freezing cold water, they hit each other a few times with more branches and more sticks. It ends with Holly rolling Snow up with some chicken wire and Holly scores a pinfall win. Sparky Plug is the new hardcore champion and we watch him run all the way back to the ring to celebrate while Snow stays out in the cold. Pretty fun seeing the match go to different locations, but I definitely would have preferred the Road Dogg being involved in this one. Still, it is a WWF style hardcore match, so you know what to expect really. The Undertaker told his Ministry of Darkness that the power from beyond has spoken to him. The Ministry's purpose in life begins tonight at St. Valentine's Day Massacre, and it begins with Mideon taking the boss man's soul, apparently. Who is this power from beyond though? What's that all about? So it's the former corrections officer versus the former hog farmer. It was all boss man in the early going, with the corporation's enforcer punching the ever-loving shit out of the Ministry's Mideon. On the outside, Mideon dodges a chair shot and he capitalized by taking a bite out of the boss man's hand. The biting continues in the ring after Mideon performs a corner clothesline, but boss man comes back with a stinger splash that makes Mideon spit his dirty saliva all over the front row. The crowd remains pretty dead as Mideon counters a full Nelson with a belly to back suplex suplex. Bossman tries a powerbomb, but he ends up getting backdropped. The two then go down after a double clothesline, and when Mideon tries another clothesline, he gets caught out with a Bossman slam. Bossman wins the match, and it wasn't very good, was it? The Ministry surround the ring after the bell, and the lights go out to signal the arrival of The Undertaker. Undertaker walks down the ramp slowly, he raises his arms up to brighten the arena lights, and the Bossman gets attacked. Viscera delivers multiple splashes before Bossman gets carried out of the ring. You'd think this would lead to the Bossman joining the Ministry, but that doesn't happen. So yeah, there you go. This is the Ministry's purpose in life, apparently. Next up, the tag team titles are on the line. Champions Jeff Jarrett and Owen Hart versus D'Lo and Mark Henry. D'Lo introduced viewers to Ivory last week on Raw. She's here to even the odds, seeing as the champs like to utilize Deborah anytime they get the chance. So the challengers very well could leave this pay-per-view as the new tag team champions. Mark Henry gives Ivory some chocolates and flowers before the match. It is Valentine's Day, remember? And Deborah gets fuck all. Owen makes the mistake of slapping Mark Henry and he pays for it dearly. Mark hits a clothesline before tagging in D'Lo, and Owen's able to tag out after hitting D'Lo with a bulldog. As soon as Jeff comes in though, he gets taken out with a power slam. All four men get in the ring briefly and Mark hits a double clothesline. We get back to Jeff and D'Lo, with D'Lo taking a single arm DDT. The champs then perform a wishbone and they continue to show their teamwork with a spinebuster and fist drop combo. So we've got D'Lo getting kept away from his corner as Jeff and Owen keep the pressure on. Owen hits an enziguri, we see more double team action. D'Lo then gets locked in the most devastating rest hold known to man, but the break comes when D'Lo pulls off a crossbody followed by a sky high. Deborah and Ivory cheer their teams on as Owen and D'Lo try to tag out. Jeff and Mark get tagged in, and Big Mark Henry fires up on the challengers, but he misses a double corner splash. Still, D'Lo picks up the slack and he gets Owen in position for the lowdown. Deborah then tries to distract D'Lo, so Ivory has a meeting with Deborah on the outside and D'Lo's forced to intervene. While D'Lo's distracted, Owen hits Mark Henry with Jarrett's guitar, and Jarrett's able to win the match for his team via submission. Like the previous bout, this was a very average match, and both this and the Bossman match would have been much more suited on a weekly episode of Raw. Ivory tries to rip Deborah's clothes off after the final bell, but she doesn't get very far. St. Valentine's Day Massacre moves on, and so far this pay-per-view hasn't been good. Let's hope the next matches are a little better. Mankind says he has a game plan for tonight. He's getting himself in a state of mental preparation which will make him a very ugly person. Looks like we might be getting some of the old Mankind in tonight's WWF title match. Next up though, it's the IC title match. Ken Shamrock defends against Val Venis. Val Venis has been knocking it into Ken Shamrock's sister and his rewards a shot at Ken's IC title. It's funny how that works. Billy Gunn, who's had his own issues with Shamrock and Venis, is our special referee. Shamrock gets caught out with a clothesline to the back of the head, but he's able to come back with a kick to Venis' chest. Venis gets sent to the corner with a lot of force, and Val takes more kicks, this time to the back and the chest. And Ken then gets vicious by laying in a few knee strikes. That's what you get for shagging someone's sister. Billy Gunn reminds Shamrock that he's the referee, but gotta say, old badass has been pretty lenient so far. That all changes though, and Billy tells Shamrock to get in the ring when he starts laying in the elbows from the outside. Shamrock gets in the ring and he tells Ryan he's going to finish Val off. You don't need to worry about that, Ken, because your sister finished Val off before this match. Ken body slams Venis and Val fights back when he counters a suplex. Venis then performs an inverted atomic drop before choking Shamrock on the middle rope. Kenny Boy takes a butterfly suplex and Venis keeps the pressure on with a backbreaker submission. Shamrock's defending his sister's honor right here, so he refuses to give up. On the outside, Shamrock gets rammed into the ring post a few times before the match gets back in the ring and Shamrock takes a camel clutch. This gets broken up and Val goes for an arm trap pin that seems to really confuse Billy Gunn. It takes him a little moment before he begins counting. There's a Val Venis chinlock right there. This gets followed up with Venis standing on his opponent's neck. Billy does break things up, but he doesn't stop Val Venis hammering Shamrock in the corner. Shamrock actually looks straight at Billy Gunn and Billy just stands there, completely aloof. The IC champ hits a DDT and Billy screws Ken, kinda like how Venis screwed Ken's sister. Badass refuses to count to 3, and when Shamrock argues this, Val Venis applies a sleeper. The move gets broken up and Shamrock delivers a power slam, and this time Shamrock complains that the count was slow. Billy's also slow and Venis delivers a fisherman's suplex, so clearly Billy's here to completely sabotage this matchup. Ken Shamrock stops a money shot, something his sister couldn't do. The champ then pulls off a Hurricane Rana, but again, Billy's in no rush to end the match. So Shamrock hits a belly to belly, followed by an ankle lock. In Luke, Ryan helps Val Venis reach the bottom rope. Shamrock goes to the outside, he tells his sister the blood's thicker than water. Ryan slaps Kenny Boy across the face, but you kinda get taken out of the moment when you can clearly hear Ken say "slap me" beforehand. Billy tries to help Ryan, but he ends up getting shoved by Ken. So Badass punches Kenny Boy before throwing him back into the ring. Venus performs a roll-up, Billy performs a fast count. So we have a new champion, it's in Valentine's Day Massacre. Shamrock chases Billy up the ramp, the two have a fight, and Venus celebrates in the ring with Ken's sister. Billy decides he's going to attack Val Venis too. The new IC champ looks like a loser when all's said and done. And yeah, this was an improvement over previous matches. Not a big improvement, but a step in the right direction. Chyna turned her back on D-Generation X a few weeks ago on Raw. She's now part of Vince McMahon's corporation, and tonight she's teaming up with Kane to face Triple H and X-Pac. This one had a lot going for it. It's an intriguing matchup because everyone wants to see how well Chyna would perform. So let's check it out and see what happened. Triple H tells that, and I quote, "jacked up bitch Chyna to come down to the ring to get her ass kicked." Chyna's the last competitor to make her way down to the ring, and Triple H reveals he's wearing a Chyna shirt under his DX jersey. He rips the shirt off his chest. Chyna thinks this is a very disrespectful thing to do, and Chyna wants to start this match off, but it's Kane and Triple H who go to work first, and Hunter gets floored with a short arm clothesline. We have the pleasure of listening to Shane McMahon on commentary for this one as Kane punches his opponent in the corner. Hunter runs into a big boot, but he manages to tag in X-Pac, and the big red machine takes a few kicks, and Shane then gets very obnoxious on commentary as Kane turns it around. Chyna demands that Kane tags her in. Kane's a little reluctant at first, but Chyna enters the match. She performs a forearm followed by a shoulder block, but in no time at all, she finds herself in position for a Bronco Buster. X-Pac lines up his signature move and Chyna moves out of the way. But this little tease right here was definitely effective in getting the crowd all fired up. Kane tags himself in and Chyna's none too happy about it. X-Pac takes advantage here, and when things get a bit ropey, Triple H comes in to lend a hand. Hunter then re-enters the match with a diving forearm. He gets sent to the ropes where Chyna hits him from behind, although she really missed him by a mile. Hunter's about to knock the shit out of Chyna right here, but Kane comes to the rescue and Hunter goes down following an uppercut. Kane performs his diving clothesline before tagging in Chyna. Chyna decks Hunter with a forearm. She then tries to suplex Triple H, and when that doesn't work out too well, she counters Triple H's suplex with another forearm. Chyna does like a forearm, doesn't she? Check it out though, there's a body slam from the 9th wonder of the world. Shane O'Mac thought this was great. Chyna misses an elbow drop though, and this leads to X-Pac and Kane taking over once again. Triple H gives Kid an assist, and we see a double suplex from the DX boys. When Chyna tries to help out, she ends up getting caught and launched into her tag team partner. DX show off some more good teamwork with a double DDT, and when the match goes to the outside, X-Pac decides to attack Shane McMahon. To be honest, he did deserve it. Shane can be a little too much on commentary sometimes. Back in the ring, Kane drills X-Pac when Kid goes for a spinning wheel kick. Chyna then summons her inner British Bulldog with a perfect running power slam, gone but not forgotten. Kane comes back in with a clothesline as Shane McMahon tries to realign his jaw, and Chyna smashes Waltman's little degenerate on the top rope. Pac really needs the tag out. Chyna's able to lock in a sleeper, and the crowd goes crazy as X-Pac fights his way out of it. Chyna takes a backdrop, and the audience are dying to see Triple H get tagged. X-Pac makes it to his partner, and Chyna decides she's not going to tag in Kane. So she ends up running at Triple H, and she ends up getting punched in the mouth. Hunter takes care of Kane before again punching Chyna in the mouth. He must have really enjoyed it the first time around. X-Pac then fights with Kane on the outside as the 9th wonder of the world takes a hearty race knee. And just when Triple H was thinking about finishing the match, Kane pulls down the top rope and Hunter tumbles to the outside. While Kane and Triple H fight on the entranceway, X-Pac delivers a Bronco Buster to Chyna. Shane McMahon then jumps in the ring to attack Kid, and this leads to Waltman chasing Shane right out of the arena. Not a very smart move, seeing as Triple H is now all alone. Hunter thinks he's neutralized Kane as he sets up Chyna for a pedigree, but Kane wakes up and Hunter ends up taking a chokeslam. Kane pulls his partner's arm over Hunter, and Chyna gets the pinfall victory. This match wasn't bad. The crowd got into it way more than previous matches, although they didn't like the outcome too much. Not bad though, it seems like the show's improving as we go along. The feud between The Rock and Mankind continues at St. Valentine's Day Massacre. We have a last man standing match tonight in Memphis, and Mick's WWF title is once again up for grabs. These two had a brutal I Quit match last month at the Royal Rumble, and this was followed up with the empty arena match at Halftime Heat. They had a match at Survivor Series 98, they worked together at Rock Bottom in Your House, but tonight's match has been billed as the end of the rivalry. Last man standing means there's no pinfalls and no submissions. To win the match, you have to beat your opponent so badly that they can't stand up after a 10 count. It starts with Mick turning his back to Rocky and the challenger gets in a few free shots. This happens again and Rock's quick to take advantage of Foley's kind offer, but Mick then smacks Rock with the WWF Championship belt and Earl Hebner begins the count. When Rock gets up, Foley knocks him to the outside and the two end up fighting up at the entrance stage. It's already getting pretty brutal with both men taking bumps at the steel entranceway structure, and Mick in particular takes a pretty rough bump here. Rock then brings Foley over to a production table, but it's Mick who gets the better of this exchange. Rock gets DDT'd through the table, but he's able to get to his feet before 10. The two then fight at some empty seats at the back of the arena. No wonder no one wanted to sit here, worst seats in the house. Mick then takes a back suplex on the floor, and this one seemed to tweak Foley's leg a bit as he hobbles back to his feet. Remember though, Mick also took a shot to the knee on Sunday Night Heat earlier on. Still though, when the action gets back to the ringside area, Foley manages to throw Rock into the ring steps. And back in the ring, Rock finds out that Mankind's been getting some lessons. Lessons from Steve Blackman, the man who Rock defeated on Saturday Night Raw. Mick goes for the motherfuck elbow, but his technique's a little off and he misses his target. The match goes to the outside once again, where Rocky pulls off 3 consecutive suplexes. The Great One thinks he has it won, so he kicks Michael Cole away from the announce table so he can add some commentary alongside Jerry Lawler. Rock wonders why Jerry isn't speaking too much, and Jerry says he has a sore throat. This is true, by the way, because Lawler was complaining about it earlier on, and Rock tells Jerry to shut his mouth before Mick Foley comes rolling in with a senton. Unfortunately, the cameras didn't catch this too well, but they do catch his diving forearm from the apron. All of this isn't enough to incapacitate The Rock though, so the match continues on. Mankind tosses both his opponent and the steel steps into the ring. He lines up a kill shot, Rock's able to get a boot up, but those steps still crash into Rock's leg. Still, Rock goes to the outside to grab a steel chair, and Rock targets the knee with multiple chair shots. Mick won't be able to stand up if Rock does enough damage here. Rock then goes for a headshot, but Mick dodges it and the chair bounces back into Rocky's face. This spot can sometimes look a bit croppy, but it looked great here. Mankind sends Rock to the outside and Mick stays in control. Rock isn't doing too good right now, so Mick decides to bring the Great One over to the announce table and end it with a pile driver. Rock counters with a back body drop and Mick smacks his knee off the timekeeper's table. There was no safe way of taking this bump, and obviously there was no way that didn't hurt. The ref begins his count as Rock gets back in the ring, and Rock then decides to drop the ring steps on top of Mick's injured knee, an act that made Michael Cole say, "God darn it." Amazingly, Mick's able to stand up before 10, so Rock brings him back inside the ropes for the corporate elbow. When Mick stands up, Rock grabs a microphone and he tells Hebner he better count quicker or he's going to get the Rock's foot in his ass. Rock then floors Mick with a right hand, and he gives the fans of Memphis a little gift, a sing-along with The Rock.
Well, since Rock's baby left him,
oh my gosh, he's singing!
He found a new place to dwell.
Now he's a damn singer.
It's down at the end of Jabroni Drive at SmackDown Hotel. Rock feels so long.
Just as Rock finishes his song, he gets put in the mandible claw. Rock struggles to free himself, and this results in Earl Hebner getting wiped out. So when Mick gets rocked down, there's no one to count. Mick Foley had the match won. Mick revives Hebner, but he wasn't quick enough. Rock gets up and he hits a DDT on the WWF champ, but Foley then gets up and he hits Rock with a double arm DDT on a steel chair. The match ends when Mick Foley pulls out Mr. Socko and Rock takes another mandible claw. He fights his way out, only to get locked in it once again. Finally, The Rock stops the onslaught with a rock bottom, and just when you think Foley's done for, he manages to get back up again. The two then grab steel chairs, they both hit each other at the exact same time, and neither man can stand up afterwards. This WWF title match ends in a draw, and the fans hate the decision. They boo loudly and they chant bullshit after Hardfinkel's announcement. This match I felt wasn't as good as the Royal Rumble encounter. The I Quit match was legendary whether you want to admit it or not, and you know, I think I even prefer their match at Rock Bottom over this one. It's a shame too because this was supposed to be the grand finale of their rivalry, but there's no way they can end it like this, so fans are now expecting another Rock vs Mankind match in the very near future. Both men get taken out in stretchers, and I've no idea why they decided to do this, as Foley refused to get stretchered out of the Royal Rumble, and that match was a lot more brutal than this one. Still though, Mankind is the WWF Champion, and as it stands right now, he's going to headline WrestleMania 15. If Stone Cold Steve Austin beats Vince McMahon tonight in the cage, he's got his spot in the WrestleMania main event secured. Vince won the 1999 Royal Rumble, but he foolishly gave up his right to headline WrestleMania. McMahon thought he could appoint a new #1 contender, but Commissioner Shawn Michaels stated that the runner-up gets the Mania title shot if the Royal Rumble winner gives it up. Austin said he wanted to beat Vince up. Beating up McMahon meant more than headlining WrestleMania. So Austin enticed Vince into a match by putting his WrestleMania title shot up for grabs inside a steel cage. Vince McMahon agreed to the match. He promised no corporation members will show up during the encounter, and he also promised that Stone Cold and the WWF will never be the same following this main event match. Stone Cold makes his way to the ring first to a thunderous ovation. Seeing the crowd rise to their feet when the glass shatters never gets boring. Austin gets inside the ring and he awaits the arrival of the chairman, and Vince comes out looking pretty confident and ready to go. This, however, was a facade because McMahon's in no rush to step inside the cage. He teases Austin by climbing up the cage only to drop back down. He goes to the cage door but he won't enter the ring. This happens again and Vince ends up slamming the door behind him, so Stone Cold decides to leave the cage to chase Vince around the ring. McMahon gets in the cage and he tries to keep Austin away. Vince is clearly afraid of what Austin might do to him, so Stone Cold begins to climb up instead in hopes of getting his hands on McMahon. When this doesn't work, Austin jumps down from the cage and it looks like he's twisted his knee. Stone Cold can't stand up and Vince McMahon sees this as the perfect opportunity. Vince approaches Stone Cold and to the surprise of no one, Austin was playing possum. The crowd pops when Stone Cold attacks the boss. Vince gets beaten up at the announce desk, he gets thrown into the side of the cage, he gets choked out with some TV cable, and he even takes a good old-fashioned kicking in the audience. Stone Cold throws McMahon into the ring steps, and just when you think Vince is done for, he comes back with an eye rake. He then unceremoniously throws Austin into the cage, and it now looks like Vince wants to leave. McMahon flips Austin off before running away into the crowd, and the two end up fighting in the middle of a very excited audience. Vince doesn't get very far and he gets thrown back over the barrier, and do keep in mind that this match hasn't officially started yet. A bit of action at the entranceway gets followed up with Vince taking another bump at the side of the cage, and Vince now wants to get in that cage. The cage seems to be the safest place McMahon can be right now. Austin takes a seat after kicking Vince in the grapefruits. This is just too easy for the rattlesnake. He watches on as Vince tries to climb the cage once again, and this time Steve decides to join his boss. The two trade shots with Austin getting the better of Vince, and after getting his head smacked off the cage, Vince bounces back and he falls through the Spanish announce table. The landing looks so rough, with Vince landing right on the edge of the table, and look, you can see it even better during this replay. It looked really painful. Officials and doctors run down to help the boss. They've got a stretcher. It looks like the match might be over before it even began, and this might even work out in Vince's favour. Austin smiles in the ring as Hardfinkel begins to announce the end of the bout, but Stone Cold grabs the mic. He says this is bullshit. Austin made a few guarantees on Saturday Night Raw, and Stone Cold hasn't delivered those guarantees yet. McMahon is not going to lose this easy. Austin wants to know if Vince is still breathing. He gets confirmation that yes, Vince McMahon is alive. Stone Cold gets a hell yeah when he asks fans if they want him to finish off this can of whoop ass. So the match is not over yet. Austin climbs back over the cage just as Vince is getting brought back up the rampway. Stone Cold intercepts the boss and he dumps him right into the cage while Vince was still on the gurney. Stone Cold then hits Vince a few times on the outside before sending him into the ring. The bell finally rings to start the match as the crowd go crazy, and Austin kicks things off with a clothesline followed by 2 second rope elbow drops. This is going to be a massacre. Austin has a chance to leave the cage, but Vince decides to flip the rattlesnake off. Bad move, Vince. Bad move. Austin stomps a mud hole in the chairman as the crowd chants Austin's name, but then, surprisingly, Vince performs a low blow and he throws Austin into the cage. McMahon tries to leave, he's unsuccessful, Stone Cold dumps the boss back into the ring before ramming his head into the cage a few times, and Vince is now busted open. Stone Cold could leave right now if he wanted to, but he comes back to hurt Vince a little more. Austin then decides it's time to end the pay-per-view as he climbs over the cage, but again, Vince flips Stone Cold off because Vince is a man who just doesn't learn. So, Austin gets back in the cage, he stops Vince from climbing out, he hits a Stone Cold stunner that makes the crowd go crazy, and now it's time to really end the match. Someone emerges from under the ring though. The crowd are absolutely stunned to see the Giant from WCW appear at a WWF pay-per-view, and the Giant, known by his real name Paul White right here, goes straight after Stone Cold. Paul White is part of the corporation. Vince now has a lot of confidence. He instructs the Giant to finish the job off and throw Austin into the cage. White picks Austin up, and in one of the most creative finishes the WWF ever produced for a cage match, the sheer force of Paul White throwing Austin makes the cage panel open up. Austin's able to escape the cage even though the odds were against him for a moment, and Stone Cold secures his spot in the WrestleMania XV main event. The finish was good. It introduced Paul White as a monster even though Austin still won the match, and without a doubt this cage match stole the show at St. Valentine's Day Massacre. It's not a technical masterpiece, but it's very, very entertaining, and now we have a former WCW World Heavyweight Champion in the WWF as part of the corporation. Raw's going to be very interesting next week, and what a loss for WCW. I always thought this show was good, but watching it again recently, it's not really that great, is it? The first half of St. Valentine's Day Massacre is bad, there's no two ways about it. DX versus Chyna and Kane and Rock versus Mankind are okay, but the main event is good fun and it pretty much saved the pay-per-view. It's why I like going back to watch these shows again all these years later. You do get a new perspective, or you notice things that you maybe didn't notice before. But St. Valentine's Day Massacre isn't a show I'd recommend watching from start to end. You can watch the DX match and the title match and have a good enough time, but the cage match is unmissable just for the sheer entertainment value. Let's see if WCW can do better with Super Brawl 9 next week, and before I look at that pay-per-view, make sure you join me on Thursday for Reliving the War. Thanks very much for watching, guys. I do hope you enjoyed this one, and please take care.
Do you smell what The Rock is cooking? The Rock says